Welcome to tonight's episode for the month of March. Our topic tonight is things every woman should know about menopause. Hot flashes, sleepless nights, fluctuating weight, and let's not forget the hormonal roller coaster ride. Menopause can be a challenging period. Understanding what's going on with your body is essential, and it can make all the difference. There's an art to navigating these changes and thriving as you shift into the next chapter of your life. Still, both family and media shy away from discussing menopause quite often. Well, not anymore. Tonight is going to be a fantastic episode in which Dr. Dow tattles on this taboo topic. First, he's going to support you in getting to have a very good health groove by teaching you how to know the signs of menopause. And then you're going to learn about what to do so that you can smooth the transition and overcome any fears about needing to make lifestyle modifications. So get ready to outwit and outlast one of the oldest challenges in female health. Dr. Dow, thank you again so much for joining us.
Oh my God, we want to outwit and outlast?
Yes, if anybody can do it, it's you.
Oh my God, okay.
Remember, yeah. I'm planning on being a centurion, and I know a lot of the others are too, because we've all been following your wisdom. So we've got a long path to go.
Okay, absolutely. It can be done. There are some very simple principles to adhere by. But menopause obviously is a change of life that occurs approximately on the average in this country, somewhere around 49 to 51 years old. But if you go through globally, that's basically around that time for a lot of different countries. So it's a very important time. The change sometimes are very sudden, and some people, the change is more gradual. So there are, obviously some people go through it without even skipping a beat. And there's some people go through it with, oh my God, with like 100 symptom lists. They come in, they're like, oh, Dr. Dow, can you take care of this? I got 100 symptoms in here. So and poor them. I mean, it's really, I tell you, when it's very severe, the quality of life is just upsetting. It's really, really tough. In fact, there are people, researcher has done a lot of research showing that especially vasomotor symptoms as well as sleep issues count as some of the top annoyances and symptoms that really, really influence the quality of life of a lady. So I am really excited to talk about this topic. I am a member of the North American Menopause Society, and I spend a lot of time researching and studying in this area. There's a lot of researchers that has done a lot of brilliant work and has given us a lot of ideas on how to tackle and manage this issue. It's not a picnic. It's not an issue that's easy to tackle, especially with some of the severe symptoms a woman has. So I'm looking forward to speak on this topic and discussing with you and others about this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, how about if first we talk about when you look at menopause, explain to us exactly what's going on hormonally. I know we're going to dive in a little more later into how symptoms differ with women, but for now, kind of give us a broader look at what's happening with our bodies on a physical level hormonally.
I think the very first thing is to understand that this is a time where a woman is transitioned from a reproductive stage of their life to a non-reproductive stage. So therefore, a lot of the female hormones, the sex hormones especially, dwindles. It does decrease. And whether it's estrogen, whether it's progesterone, even testosterone level, and some of the thyroid hormone and other hormones kind of gradually declines. So a lot of times when it gradually declines, this is physiologically, that's what it happens. And you start to have no period. You start to miss period. And you start to miss ovulation, obviously means you miss period. Once you don't have ovulation, most of the time, your period also stops. And or that you start missing your period, but you still have some irregular menstrual cycles where you have irregular bleeding. You have some incessant spottings or bleeding that just won't stop. So we do need to manage some of these menopausal and perimenopausal symptoms. There are some definitions that obviously every one of us can probably search on the internet to find out some of the terms such as perimenopause, menopause, but usually this is a period of time a lot of these sex hormone does go down. Now, the sex hormone does have a few things that is very important, very healthy, and very helpful for us. It does have some aging protective functions. So a lot of times we do like our female sex hormone not to go down too much. We like them to stay stable, even when it decreased quite a bit. A lot of women that exhibit symptoms through menopause is frequently their body needs that hormone a little bit more than what the body is providing or secreting. Or that the body is so used to higher hormone level for so many years, and for the female hormone sex hormone to go down so dramatically, sometimes it's so hard for the body to handle. So that's why you have quite a bit of these symptoms, such as hot flashes, night sweats, dryness, vaginal dryness, and sex libido changes, as well as mood changes, and I say sleep issue already. And so there are other things that along with it. So it's a cascade of events and symptoms that can occur. But I don't want to scare everybody to think that everybody is going to have these symptoms. Not everyone going to have these symptoms. Some women just have it, menopause, the period stops without much symptom and much fanfare. These are wonderful, lucky few women that I congratulate you. But most people are going to have a few symptoms here and there, and they don't really bother people most of the time, and they do go away in good time. But then there are a group of people who just really suffers from some of these symptoms. Menopausal time is also a time that marks a new beginning. It's a beginning of a non-reproductive life. And this is a beginning, a lot of times, your life is no longer confined by reproduction. In a sense, is truly, this is a time where you can really do a lot of different things without worrying about having a period. But the problem in this time for some women is that they start to gain weight. They start to see metabolic changes, and it gets very frustrating when they couldn't lose a certain amount of weight, and everything seems to slow down for them. And I think we need to address that right out the gate is weight issue. I think that's the very first thing I want to address that.
Okay, let's do that.
So the very first thing is that metabolism does go down a little bit, and is kind of known that the basal metabolic rate does go down somewhere between 1% to 10%, just depends on each individual. So it does go down, but that's not the only reason why a woman actually gain weight around this time. The other reason is that you're no longer having a period. And don't forget, having a period is actually an energy outlet. Imagine that you're having period every month. That's kind of like burning some calories. Calorie could be anywhere from 3,000, 4,000 calories, plus you got some nutrient loss. So therefore, in some ways that you're still eating the same amount of foods as before, and all of a sudden you're gaining weight, you realize, well, maybe because you're not spending those calories, because you're not having some of these periods. So I think I always suggest to let people understand that this is not unhealthy in a sense for you to gain weight. It is the process that your body is maturing. And in some ways, your body is hoarding calories, hoarding nutrients better than when you're younger. And your life does slow down a little bit. So I think this is a time where you actually need to really change your lifestyle a little bit. One is you got to get more fit. You gotta move more. It's really true that as we get older, we move less. There's that inertia. There's no momentum to move. So we need to kind of stimulate ourselves to move. And there are many ways. The very first thing the Taoists often tell us, hey, hang around with younger people. And if you want to hang around with younger men, be my guest, as long as you don't hurt anybody. But be with the younger people, with your grandkids, moving around and, go to the park and doing some fitness, do some exercise. Really is going to help to burn some of the extra calories. So that's the very first thing. Second of all, is that you start to eat more nutrient-dense foods and really, really be careful with the amount of food you eat. Okay, so, stop snacking so much. Okay, if you can help it. I mean, there's some women who need to snack because their blood sugar goes down pretty quickly. But if you don't need to, don't snack so much. Eat regular meals and keep your meal quantity and quality consistent. I think this is a very good time to evaluate your meal plan. Okay, some of the extra calorie like alcohol, you don't need to have so much alcohol. Don't drink a glass of wine every night. That's extra calorie you don't really need. So I always recommend a moderate drinking is really 1 or 2 glasses per week. It's not really every day. I think that's excessive. So that's one thing that you can take a look at it. Think about juices. Stay away from juices so much. More diluted juices. If you want to drink some juice, make it so it's not so much. Drink more liquid and be more active. This is a time that's important for us to be not just mentally active, but also physically active. This is also time for us to think about this midlife is coming. Let me design a lifestyle that I can really move forward for the next 50 years until 100 years old. So if you can design your lifestyle right now at 50 years old, then you can carry far into your hundreds. So I think it starts there. And so I'm talking a little bit too much, Tiffany. So I'm passionate.
It's interesting, of course. You're just answering questions that are going to come up later, so it's fantastic.
Yeah. So I think another thing I just want to get to is like cancer risk. Okay, so I think we need to really look at cancer risk. Importantly, in this country, breast cancer is a big deal here. I mean, this is the #1 female cancer in this country. So it's kind of important to really evaluate our cancer risk, okay? In the old days, we have a calculator that you can go on the website, used to be called a Gale model calculator. And we have enhanced version, we have different versions where that calculator uses all the different, shall we say, studies and research. And in this country, it's wonderfully that we have a lot of research on breast cancer, for example, and other ovarian cancer and hormone-related cancers. And so it's kind of important to really do an inventory and do a risk assessment, and it doesn't take that long. Plug in a few numbers, figure out your genetics will give you some idea of your cancer risk. Why is that important? Because having understanding of your cancer risk can help you to guide you, also give you some idea whether or not, if you need to, in a situation of hormone replacement therapy, whether or not that would be in some ways safer for you. So I think it's important to do that. And I usually recommend almost, all my patients to take a look at that risk. Take a look at your parents and your ancestors and see if there's any kind of cancer risk. I think that's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you. What I'd like to talk about next is you touched on before about the emotions that women are going through, mood swings and whatnot. Can you expand on that more? Because I know that there are some women out there that really struggle with this milestone emotionally. So on top of the fact that they are going through menopause and experiencing hormone impacted things, it's also that mindset of, oh my gosh, I've reached this age, I'm now in menopause. And, some struggle with it, and then others get really excited and they're like, woohoo, I'm free. So how do we foster positive emotional balance as we transcend into this area?
Most women are rational beings. They don't want to be so emotional. Okay, there's a reason why they are emotional. One, they don't feel good. If they don't feel good, then let's work on that. Okay, they may not feel good because physically, hey, look, if you're having hot flushes, you're having night sweats every night, you're not sleeping well, I would be irritable. Okay, so I think one of the things is when somebody's very emotional, I look at some of the physical symptoms and signs, and I try to find ways to see if we can eradicate some of these symptoms. Okay, trying to fix that issue or manage that issue so that they can sleep better, they have less hot flashes, less night sweats, so they feel better. A lot of time when they feel better, they're not emotional. They're passionate, but they're not emotional. Okay, and so to start with, I think a lot of time we just forget. Physically, you have to take a look at that part first. Now, a lot of women who has strong PMS, when they get to menopausal time, sometimes the emotion can amplify. It can get much more, and sometimes can be quite irrational. And that can happen because I do have a few patients that I treat, and they don't want to be in that situation. So it's very hard for them. They get really sad, get really upset because they're emotional for no good reason. So in this situation, first of all, I accept them as who they are. If they are emotional being, they are emotional being, and that's okay. As long as they don't harm themselves, as long as they don't harm anybody, we need to love them for who they are to start with, accept them for who they are, and then work from there. Take a look at different emotions and break it down. Okay, is it irritability? Is it sadness? Is it anxiety? Is it excessive worries? Okay, is it fright? Is it different emotion? There are 7 emotions they can go through, and take a look which component, which emotions are the predominant. Sometimes a woman is shall we say, equal opportunity. So they have all the 7 emotions equally, but rarely that happens. Most women and most people have predominantly 1 or 2 emotions. So in Chinese medicine, we say that there's a certain organ that relates to that emotion, such as, for example, liver. Organ system relates, the nervous system relates to anger a lot. And the lung system relates to sadness and grief a lot. For example, the digestive system, the stomach system, relates a lot with overworrying and anxiety. So a lot of times as an acupuncturist, when somebody have a predominant emotion, then we try to treat that organ system. And frequently we can help to really work on some of those emotions, Now, there's a situation where that is unbearable, it's difficult, then they might need some SSRIs and antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. Mm-hmm. And there are classes of medications such as, SSRI. These class of medications sometimes not just they are helpful with some of the depression and anxiety, they are also very good for sometimes hot flash symptoms. And so, that is kind of like a dual benefit. And, we do use it if it's necessary because, having some of these very strong irrational emotions are very hard to live a life. So it's very important to assess these situations and give the patients the necessary tools and help, whether it is medication or whether herbal therapy, whether acupuncture, whether body work, or whether lifestyle modification that can help them to move forward in their new life post-menopause.
Okay. In what ways do we make menopause worse on ourselves?
In what way do we make worse of the period itself? Whatever we make worse of our life in the sense of period, we make worse with menopause also as well. One of the things is not having the tools, okay, not recognizing the symptoms, okay. Instead of sitting down and really be rational and trying to really understand what you're suffering instead of just going through the suffering without any trying to find out, discover the reason why you're suffering. I think that's a problem. I think you need to try to figure out, why am I suffering? Why am I having these symptoms? You can do a search online. You can talk to your friends. You can talk to a professional. A lot of people call me and I give them some ideas on what they are suffering, and a lot of times they come in and get treatment, and that helps. But I think the important thing for women especially is to have a support group, to have good friends that they can talk to, because a good friend is like a mirror, it's like a sounding board that can give you some idea why you are having this issue and what you are doing to make it worse. A good friend is somebody who's going to tell you straight up, even though you don't like to hear it, but this is the best person that can really give you some guidances. So I think having a good support system, I think, is very important. But if you don't have such a good support system, maybe you have to take it online and join some kind of forum where that you can have some chat with other people who might be able to be there for you, or go see a professional like a therapist who deal with menopausal issues, who deal with mood disorders. These are the professionals that can really be helpful also as well.
Okay. You actually just answered another question I had, which was about how we can support those individuals that are going through menopause. But I think what you said is so necessary, to be honest and have very authentic conversations, because even for somebody like myself, I'm not going through menopause myself right now, but I have several girlfriends who are. And it's so true that they need that sounding board to be able to say, oh my God, I was having horrible sleep. I remember both of my sisters have already gone through it already. And just that anxiety of like the weight gain, the sleepless nights, wondering, should I do hormonal replacement therapy, which actually is my next question for you. But that question in the mind of like, how do I ease myself into this? Because it got very uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden, the distinctive thing I see is there reaches a point where they're coming to the end of the menopause, and it's just this immense, okay, now I can enjoy. And they really do feel it in themselves of like, okay, this is it. We're in through the last wave of it, which is wonderful too.
Yeah, I'm going to borrow from Marie Kondo tidying up process. So what you do is I have patients who will come in with a sheet, right? And they will probably have like 100 symptoms, right? So when I see the 100 symptoms, the very first thing I say, listen, I know, and I accept and I acknowledge everything on the sheet bothers you, okay? And I understand that. But can you tell me what are the 3 or 5 top symptoms that bothers you the most? Okay, so a lot of women is able to do that. They will tell you like, oh, it's my moodiness. Okay, oh, it's my hot flashes. Oh, it's the sleep at night. Okay, so they'll go through some of the symptoms, and then so you break it down. You start to look at some of the symptoms, and what you do is, as a practitioner, we try to focus on that worst symptom. We're trying to treat that worst symptom, because whatever we do to treat that worst symptom, mitigate other symptoms frequently. So a lot of times it's kind of like you have to identify where's the head, where's the tail, right. Trying to focus on what's the most important and what's the most annoying and what's the most, critical and problematic. Okay, so that's how we approach this kind of condition.
Okay, and is there like a specific, like a timeline that women, because I imagine they come into you and you say, okay, let's drill down then to these 3 or 4 things that are truly bothering you right now, and now you narrow that down to, okay, let's work on this first. Is there a timeline? How do you build the structure around to make them feel at ease that this isn't going to be permanent? There is an end point at this, and then we can move on to the next point, because I'm sure in their heads it's all spinning going, oh great, we covered the 3 or 4, but what about the other 80 that I'm still holding in my hands?
Yeah, but a lot of times, as I say, when you mitigate one of the major symptoms, frequently all the 80 symptoms, they don't go away. but they reduce. Okay, they reduce dramatically. So a lot of times it becomes much of a non-issue. So a lot of times, because otherwise you go crazy. I mean, you have to deal with 100 symptoms. Even if a physician or practitioner, a menopause practitioner, they're going to get confused. They're going to say, oh my God, there's just so many to deal with. Where do I start? And you got to start somewhere. So you always have to start with the one that bothers patients the most. And frequently that really works well. And there are also invisible issues. There are issues that you can see. For example, bone health. Okay, there are issues where a woman is going through osteopenia and osteoporosis. A lot of white female tends to have a higher risk than, say, compared to African American females. So in those situations, frequently we need to go and have her go in and do a baseline bone density test to see where we are in the bone density. But you try not to scare the patient, because the truth is there's a lot of things that you can do to help, for example, in bone health, and you want to change their lifestyle. Give them some Fitbit, give them some fitness tips. Fitbit actually could be very helpful. Give them some fitness tips so that they can change their life and do some weight-bearing exercises, looking at supplementations, whether it's vitamin D's, or other minerals.
Durabone would come into play as well?
Yes, I think we have a formula that we use, that we have designed for bone health, and it's a supplement that you can take. It's called Durabone. And so I do have some of my women take some of these, shall we say, supplementation. These are herbal supplementations. I also design, for example, give customized prescriptions, especially for bone health. I have a few patients that so far has been exhibiting some very nice changes. I had a patient who was T-score minus 2.5, and we were able to get it to about minus 1.7. That is, but it's after 1 year, so it's a long process. It's not an easy process, but it can be done. It's not for everybody, but it can be done. But most important is fitness. It's not like there's a panacea drug or herb that you can take and it's going to be really just great. Even Boniva, even a lot of drugs that's used for bone density situations, some of them have side effects, and some of them is very helpful, but some have side effects. So a lot of times you got to evaluate the patient accordingly and see who would fit that kind of criteria for a different medication or even herbs. But most important, regardless what you take, most important is what you do. That's the key. So a lot of times I even, actually go down to REI and get my patients to buy a nice fitting backpack and, get them fit out with some water bottles, or get them something where they can start to doing some hiking and weight-bearing exercises, where they can put some weight on their spine and on their hips, because our body is an on-demand system. So as long as you're not injured, as long as your body is fairly strong, fairly good, the more you demand upon it frequently, it gets better. It gets better. So you can actually get the bone density a lot stronger.
Is there benefit to wearing the wrist weights or the ankle weights if a person is going throughout their day and they don't have, obviously work conflicts? Perhaps they're stay-at-home individuals or work-from-home individuals. Is there benefit to wearing that?
Yeah, you can. I personally prefer. I mean, there are like weightlifting programs that you can do, right? And you can put ankle and the wrist weights. But personally, I prefer more weight on the spine. I think that's more direct. So that is basically a form-fitting backpack. And there's a lot of them out there. And the form-fitting backpack is very nice systems where you can strap in a very different way and, very comfortable. And then you have water. You don't even have to use water bottle. You can put water bags in there, and then you can just fill out water, and then that is easy to add weight and subtract weight, and go out and walk with that. I think it distributes weight nicely between the shoulder, between the hips, between the entire spine. So I think that's actually, personally, I think that is actually a better way to do it. And then I add on tracking poles, and I have people use tracking poles, and they're using their arm force as well. So it's and they're doing activities. Personally, I like more activity-based exercise where you're doing something instead of just living a dead weight. Maybe you shouldn't join the moving company, but maybe you should join the moving company where you're lifting some heavy boxes. But a lot of times I realize is that as long as I'm in a good ergonomic, I don't shy away from lifting a heavy box that's appropriate to what I can handle. I feel like that physical labor, that physical exercise is actually good for me. And I encourage my patient to do so according to their needs and according to what their body can handle.
Okay, got it. Oh, what about Qigong? Is that good?
Qigong is excellent. Qigong is excellent. Meditative exercise, Tai Chi, those are all very, very good. Qigong and Tai Chi are very good for mental health. You can calm down your anxiety, but also is also very good for blood pressure. That has been known that it can be helpful for high blood pressure, so you can manage the high blood pressure. Some people swear by managing blood sugar as well. So that's something that that people can do. I do recommend, though, that's not enough, especially people who has bone health issues. With a bone health issue, I think they need to do some brisk walking. They can even run if their joint can handle it, but they need weight-bearing exercises. The Chinese martial art has more weight-bearing exercises, so you may want to take up sword dance and staff, things that's got a little weight that you got to handle. That actually, I think, could be beneficial.
Okay. Now, just going back, and I don't want this to become a product-centric talk, but I believe for this topic, it's important to touch on a couple of things. On the, can you just explain to everyone, because sleep is a big issue for individuals, and of course we're in Sleep Awareness Month as well. We have a line of products that are specific, the Sanctuary line, that are specific to sleep. Can you share with us a little bit about the sleep line and how that will support individuals going through menopause as well?
I will address that, but the very first thing I want to address, how to manage sleep. I think sleep is not about taking a pill. I think the sleep is to look at the totality of a sleep problem. Frequently is anxiety, frequently is stress, and not the least, frequently it's a habit. I think I spoke about this topic in the previous session that we had, is that you need to take a look at your sleep hygiene. And what that means is that by a certain time of night, you need to get prepared for sleep. Okay, so what that means is that, let's say you go into bed by 10 o'clock. So, what I try to do, I try to shut things down by 9 or 9:30, where I put my iPhone away, in another room. I don't try to have an iPhone in my room. If it's possible, take all the electronic stuff out of your bedroom if it's possible. I try not to watch TV if it's possible, just about half hour before go to bed. I think that's very disturbing. And every time, if I watch, the most difficult habit to break is Netflix and Amazon. I think that's very disturbing. And every time, okay, sorry. Do we have a technical?
No, it was me. We had one of the individuals on Facebook answering. Okay. Having Leah here doing the moderating. I was explaining to them she's not here. She just gave birth to her son.
Oh, okay.
Thought, I can jump in and moderate, and I entirely forgot. It's been so long since I've done it. I forgot that it double plays at the moment.
Okay, no problem. So one of the bad habit that most people encounter and is very difficult, is addictive, is Netflix binging or Amazon binging. I mean, at night, you got great shows, you got all these stuff that you're watching is wonderful. That is an addiction that's hard to break. So a lot of time I say, you gotta start giving you some affirmation and talk to yourself before you get there. Okay, so that once you get there, stay away from if you can, stay away from your computer, put your iPhone away, get yourself something that's easy to do, like a little book that you can read, that you can fall asleep with, something that is easy for you. And I think that's important, okay, in totality. Now, if we have some health issue, don't forget insomnia or sleep problem frequently is a larger picture health issue. So you need to take a look at why you're having sleep issue. Sometimes it could be heart disease issues. Sometimes it could be sleep apnea. Sometimes it could be high cholesterol, hypertension. So these things that you definitely want to do some physical exam and take a look if you have these issues. Now, if it's just some simple anxiety or like things where you need something to calm a little bit, we do have an array of herbs that you can actually take, and that could be very helpful. And so, for example, we have, I'm trying to really, where is the thing, Calm? So we have like a product or something like Calm. It's very calming, soothing, similar to things like melatonin, but greater than that. It actually helps to calm your emotions as well. So those are kind of things that you can take that can be very helpful. The water element and the Passage Plus, these are things that you can use for basically menopausal situations. For some mild menopausal symptoms, you can take these, and that could be very helpful to reduce some of these things. And also, there's some women, they get arthritis and they get painful joints when it goes through menopause. So we do have some arthritis formula that people can take. But the most important, just make sure to understand, so sleep issues is frequently, it doesn't just happen overnight. It takes some time, and frequently it's habits. So a lot of time you want to give yourself time and really changing habits and start slow and give yourself time to really see the change of that. And a lot of time it can be very effective after a while. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. I have lots of questions, of course, all the time. Also, just as an aside, for those of you that are on Facebook watching right now, and those of you on Zoom watching right now is a good point for you to start sending us your questions. If you type them into the comment and chat boxes, we'll begin answering some of those in a few minutes, and we have some other questions that have been emailed to us too. So I want to give you plenty of time to think about the questions you have and write them down. But my question right now for you is, do men go through menopause too? Is it solely women?
Men, well, you can say men go through menopause every single day, but men doesn't have menopause in some ways. If you think about it, men doesn't have a period. So menopause means stopping of a period. Well, they don't have a period, so they don't really have menopause. There was a situation, there were times where some people say, well, men may have andropause. Well, men doesn't really have andropause either. I mean, it's not like stop. Men doesn't have such thing where you just stop. Men do go through aging hormone declines, just like women do. Okay, but theirs is much more of a gradual process. Okay, much of a gradual process. Unless you're sick, but it's a gradual process. So, and for men, you can see they are aging. They might have wrinkles. They lose their hair, and they lose their sight and a blurry vision. Their skin is not as robust. They're having wrinkles, and they have their body. They start to lose their muscle mass. They start having a little more belly weight. Their joint quakes more. So these are. I don't want to use the word pause. I would like to put that in more, shall we say, more aging issues. So a lot of times managing menopause and in men is more like managing aging issues. So what can we do to live longer? What can we do besides living longer, living good quality of life? I mean, living longer with no quality of life is might as well not living. It's not a good living. Right. So, I mean, you want to be able to have good sight. Your nose got to be working, and you can taste food, and you can chew food, and as much as you can enjoy some of the benefits of maturity and aging. I think that's key. So I often say is that use wisdom. You know, the one thing that you have when you get to 50 years old, when you're menopause, is that you got a lot of life experience. Use that life experience. Don't throw out that life experience. There's a lot of wisdom that you have accumulated that a young person at 20 years old not going to have. Okay, they have never gone through it. Okay, understand that wisdom, but examine it. Examine it, critically examine it, see if that really is true for me. Sometimes you got certain habits that's not so good. Get rid of it. You got to ask yourself these serious but realistic questions. Are some of these life habits really good for me? Be smart about it. Okay, be real about it. Be authentic about it. You know, ask difficult questions for yourself and not be afraid to really truly answer it. If you can write it down, the answer, frequently you don't have the answer. Okay, then that's a time maybe you need to get professional. Maybe you talk to your friends. Maybe you can talk to a doctor, talk to somebody who practices menopausal medicine, who knows a lot about aging. Talk to researchers, and there's a lot of knowledge in this field. So number one, don't throw away that maturity, that wisdom. And number two, change your lifestyle more. You know, reduce the stress, and more important, try to sleep well. Okay, one of the things that I found is that sleep issue is a major issue. That makes you age faster when you don't have a good sleep. So I frequently trying to help my patients to deal with these sleep issues. I think that's an important thing to pick on and work on.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I love your point about wisdom, because I think a lot of us, we go through different experiences in life for sure, and we get so caught up in day-to-day life that we forget as we get older, we actually are accumulating these experiences for a reason. And we do carry that wisdom inside of us, even though we don't see it ourselves at times. It does take others and being able to share with others to remind us, oh, wait a moment, I understand that, I've been through that, or I have something that I can offer you as a tool to support you. And it's that exchange of energy too that others are offering to us as well. And if we are open and if we take the time to listen, we can get there so much faster in a beautiful way. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's talk sex. Let's switch and talk sex, because that's a big issue. And you and I like to do that every couple of months. So that's one of the big questions for emails this time. Sex life and menopause, and what do women do, and men as well while you're at it. So what do they do?
Well, one of the things is that, as I say earlier, I think we talk about in the other Zoom meetings, is that sex is a wonderful exploration of your energy as well as your partner's energy. Do continue to make sex and do enjoy sex. And if you can, if there are obstacles, that's trying to make that better. So if there's vaginal dryness, let's see what we can do to use some natural lubricants. And some people like to use coconut oil, and that does work. Some people like to use avocado oil, walnut oil, all types of oil, even some oil I don't even know. But, you know, you can try those and see how that work for you. If that doesn't work, and there may be situations where you need a little bit of estrogen. So you may want to use some Vegifan or a little estrogen suppository, and that sometimes there's the trick there. But otherwise, trying the natural stuff. There's a lot of natural substance out there and supplement that you can take that can be very helpful. That's the very, very first thing. And second of all is that you know, make sure that you have a good relationship with your partner. I think relationship is important. Sex is very fulfilling when you have a wonderful, loving relationship with somebody. If that can be, that can happen. But not every relationship is, there's no what we call a cookie cutter relationship. So everybody have a different sets of relationship and different situations. Their partnerships, their marriages, they're just boyfriend, girlfriends. There's even what we call friends with benefits. Okay, so there are situations like all different relationships. That's not important thing is that what you can do to be happy with both parties, enjoy that process. So first, the vaginal dryness. The second thing is for men. Men actually do have erection issues, and so sometimes as we get older, we get erection issue, and that can be solved by many different things. There's supplement you can take. There are also Cialis or different type of medication you can take. You got to be careful, make sure it's prescribed, and make sure a doctor approve it because some situation of hypertension or other heart diseases, you may want to be very careful. But otherwise, and by the way, sex take many different forms. Okay, so it's not just a penile penetration is one form. There can be many different forms of sexual activity. So I think this is a beautiful time to explore different ways of having that intimacy and having that intercourse. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you. Well, if it doesn't, we're going to get more questions from everyone. So I guess we'll find out shortly.
Oh my God, yes.
What about, I know I skipped over, I think I did slightly mention it earlier, and we took on more talking about acupuncture and what we do in the clinics to address this, but how does a woman know if she actually needs hormonal replacement therapy? What does that mean? And how, like literally, how would she know and seek that out?
Well, the OBGYN, first of all, does a lot of work, a lot of heavy lifting in helping a woman assess their need for a HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they also do an inventory of cancer risk before they do so, just as a, shall we say, a kind of safety kind of, even though that a lot of society has come out and telling us that a proper hormone replacement therapy is safe for cancer risk. Does not increase much of a cancer risk, but we got burned by the Women's Health Initiative and other research in the past that show Premarin and Provera causing a higher risk for breast cancer. So a lot of women are very reticent to take hormones. But I do want to say that the hormone supplementation these days are not exactly the same as that anymore. They are not the same. So, there is definitely help. And the hormone replacement therapy is not the yesterday's hormone replacement therapy. So I think it's important for you to consult a professional who can help you and guide you through what's helpful and what's not helpful. And also, if you have mild to moderate symptoms, you can try natural therapy first, such as acupuncture, such as herbal therapy, and such as over-the-counter supplementation like what we have here. That can be just all you need. And so those are kind of things that you can do. But if those things don't work, then you may want to start consulting somebody to give you something a little bit stronger, such as what we call hormone replacement therapy.
Okay, thank you. I think this is a good point for us to open up to our questions from everyone. So let me just take a look here and see what we've got going on. One of the individuals had asked, you had mentioned earlier the supplement for bone health. That was Durabone?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Durabone.
Okay.
Yes. Durabone. I designed this formula probably about 10 years ago. And it was initially designed really for bone health issues, people who has osteopenia and osteoporosis. But actually now it's been used a lot for people who fracture easily and people who actually need some bone growth support after fractures, and also even ligament and tendon tear and injuries, and even surgical procedures such as hip replacement or knee replacement surgeries. So that's a Durabone. I think this is what it looks like.
Okay, great, thank you. What do you recommend for hot flashes?
Hot flashes, there's a lot of things out there that you could definitely try. Okay, some people try red clover. Some people try black cohosh. And for mild hot flashes, some of these herbs do help. So you can try that. There are other things such as vitamin E for some people is that helps them. And then there are some herbs in Chinese medicine repertoire that you can use, such as Romania, some commonly called Sodi, and Dioscorea, commonly called Sanyao, and Fructus corni, commonly called Sanzhuyu. So these are some of the herbs that you can use that can be very helpful for hot flashes. But ideally, you want to get a customized made. The Chinese medicines are usually taken in a synergistic approach. So a lot of times, several herbs are put together in a formula. So for example, easily I might give a formula about 6 to 10 herbs put together because for different symptoms, not just for hot flashes. So these are some of the herbs that you can do. Now, there are other things that can be very helpful for hot flashes. Recently, there's an article from BMJ, British Medical Journal, talk about that acupuncture for some women can be really helpful for hot flash symptoms. And I've seen that actually clinically. So these are some things that you can definitely try. Meditation can be helpful, so as yoga practices. Sometimes the yoga practices can be very helpful. And another thing is simple. There's some simple stuff. For example, don't have heaters so much in the room. That helps. Don't wear such a thick clothing, and more thinner clothing can be very helpful too as well. So these are kind of things that you can adjust and try to work with. So these are something that you can try first before you embark on HRT.
Okay. Let's see. An individual wanted to know, this individual gets headaches. Is that part of menopause, and what can be done for that?
Oh, you need to evaluate that. If your headache started around the time of your menopause, and so it might be related to that. But if you have headache for a long period of time, chronically, and it gets worse during menopause, it just means the menopause, the lack of hormones or the hormone decline is making the headaches worse. So we need to, headache need to be evaluated. It could be many different reasons. It could be a vascular reason, blood flow issues. It could be a blood pressure reasons. It can be blockage issues, or it can be hormonal issues. So I think there's many different reasons, and there's genetic issues too. So you need to evaluate that before a treatment is rendered.
Okay. One of the patients mentioned that she's getting facial hair. Is that a result of the menopause, or is that a result of aging overall?
Aging, part of aging, what happens is that the female hormone balance and the male hormone balance is a little bit off. So, a lot of times when a woman in reproductive age, their female hormones is high and their male hormones are much lower. So what happens as they go through menopause, everything is declining, but you get to a point where that is actually, they are much closer to each other. In some ways, the male hormone can, you can start having more hair issues. Also, there are a class of women who have polycystic ovarian disorders, and sometimes they tend to exhibit a little bit more hair issue as well. And then, of course, there are other genetic issues. Culturally, there are some genetic issues, like, for example, Middle Easterner, sometimes they have a lot greater hair amount, so that can cause just a normal situation for some women. So yes, I understand that's might be very annoying to have these body hair, but they are not necessarily pathological. So a lot of time it's more of a cosmetic thing to deal with than is a pathological thing.
Yes, and now there's dermablade, so everybody can just dermablade and it'll go away like that.
Yes.
Another question is, this is an interesting question actually. At what point in the phases of menopause should a woman stop taking birth control?
Birth control pill is basically has been known to actually use for a period. There's some research that has shown that you could use birth control pills to actually mitigate and reduce some of the menopausal symptoms. Okay, so that has been known to be helpful, but not every OBGYN subscribe to that. They rather put people on hormone replacement therapy, or that once your period it has ceased to exist, a lot of times they take people off the oral contraceptive pills. So there are definitely situation where that you don't want to continue birth control pill past the time of your menopause. I don't recommend that. You don't need that, and so it's something that is used occasionally as a therapy for menopausal symptoms in some women, but it's not a too common of a thing that we do.
Okay. Let's see, we have another comment here. This is from one of our individuals. With the help of a personal trainer, I started resistance training on equipment at a gym. The weight I was using on each machine seems way too heavy. Example, 30 to 45 pounds on shoulder presses.
Mm-hmm.
I can't seem to do this every other day as suggested. My muscles seem to be much weaker because of winter inactivity. If the form-fitted backpack, is the form-fitted backpack along with walking 30 minutes a day sufficient? About 30 minutes a day is that enough to gain back arm and leg strength? So she's saying instead of doing the strength training in the gym, could she wear the form-fitting backpack and then do 30 minutes of walking to replace that? And
Okay.
would that be enough for this arm and leg strength?
I think there's a few questions in that. Okay, so I think we should deal with the first question. I mean, if it's certified, we often say, and if you can always speak to a personal trainer, kinesiologist, or exercise physiologist, you don't want to lift excessive amount of weight where your body cannot handle. That's number one. Okay, common sense, you will injure yourself. Okay, you rather do a lighter weight and more repetition. And that actually helps more than heavier weight, less repetition. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, number two, these are two different kind of exercises. Walking, brisk walking with a backpack is not the same as a lifting weight situation or resistance training, because one is a specific weight type of exercise, and the other one is actually mobility type of exercise. They use, number one, they use different muscles. Number two, they require different joint involvements. So they're not really the same. Obviously, if you exercise, however you exercise, you're going to always get some benefit. Okay, so I always say do that. Okay, always do some exercise. But you know, sometimes resistance training, if you're just doing your arm, you're not getting your hip involved. Okay, so you're not getting your lower back involved as much. So therefore, you need to think about totality of your spine and your hip, especially for bone health. So a lot of times, just the lifting weight with your arms is not going to replace everything. So you do want to do cross training. Maybe one day you do weightlifting, the next day you do brisk walk, and the next day you might do yoga or Tai Chi. So you switch around, and that actually would help you to have a much more balanced, comprehensive exercise that will help you in many different ways.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answers your question. Another question is, my periods have always been 4 days in duration. The past year, my periods are only 2 days. This is such a strange change. Is this a sign of menopause starting? What can I do to mitigate this change? Excuse me. I just turned 40 years old.
40 years old?
40 years old.
So naturally, as we get older, our hormone process declines. And a lot of times, basically, this is an indication of declining female sex hormones. And this is when we are having less and less menstrual blood, because the formation of the menstrual blood has a lot to do with the endometrial buildup. which is the lining that's in the uterus. And that formation and that endometrial buildup relates so much, not just with the blood, but so much with hormones. So therefore, it is an indication of a hormone decline. Okay, so is it happened? Is it too early? No. In the 40s, in the early 40s, you can start with that, and you can gradually become less and less. But normally, when you're younger, your periods are usually 5 to 6 days or even 7 days. When we are older, about 40s, we like to see somewhere between 3 to 4 days, maybe mostly flow maybe for 2 days and spa, 1 day in the beginning, 1 day at the end. That's quite common. We see that, but every woman does different things, so nobody do the same things. But that's usually what we like to see. We don't like to see quick dwindling flows and combined with other symptoms such as cramps or clots, because that sometimes could mean that you might have polyps, or you might have fibroids, or you might have other issues that we need to look at. So if you have a sudden change of your flow, you could definitely go into OBGYN, do some hormone tests, do some pelvic ultrasound, and take a look if there's other things that we don't see. But otherwise, it is a gradual process where that the period flow will decrease and decline, even in the 40s, even the 30s. Sometimes even starting as early as 35 or 34, you can start to see some change already.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answers your question. Wow, we are up on the hour already, so it is time for us to start wrapping up. Dr. Dow, are there any last thoughts that you'd like to add to tonight's topic before we conclude?
Of course, I think the Chinese medicine, I think we talked about this last time. You are confined, not confined is the wrong word. You're very much influenced by the 7-year cycle we talked about last time in a balanced hormone. So 49 years, 7 times 7, and that really gives you a whole reproductive cycle. So what's moving forward? The reality is that, in the old days, just 100 years ago, life expectancy is not that long. So a lot of women, don't make it to menopause. If they make it to menopause, you should be so lucky you make it to menopause. So if you look at a lot of literatures, there is not, unfortunately, there's not a lot of information on menopause. There's definitely some, but not a lot. The Taoist texts, though, have quite a bit of information on menopause, how to live an aging life, how to preserve your life. And I think that's something that we can all learn from, is that when you are 50 or 49 years old, you're starting a whole new life, and it's time to really look forward to it. This is an opportunity to now design your life if you can. Take a look at any symptoms of disease you might have. Get a manage on them. Don't delay from treatments. If you got something, and a lot of times, your body don't heal as quickly when you're in the 50s. This is a time where you want to take care of things and don't let it, go crazy. So I think that's important. But otherwise, this is a time that you are mature, you have a lot of wisdom, and you understand better on how to make your life a happier life. And I want to say that I wish everyone, as you age gracefully, and really enjoy your aging life, enjoy the non-reproductive aspects of your life, because this is a time where you can flourish. This is a time where you can write an incredible bestsellers. This is a time where you can make great speeches. This is a time where you can do things. There are people, I had a 60-year-old just climb the Mount Everest. There are times where certain things can be done, because when you have less entanglement, you have more free time, you have time to do a lot of things. So I want to say that this is a good time if we can really look forward to it and manage it properly. And I wish and I pray everyone to have a good post-menopausal life. Thank you so much to include me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dow. We're very appreciative. We do have one more individual, which I I think it's a very interesting question coming out of what you just discussed. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to toss this. Oh, wow, we have 2 more questions. They don't want to stop, Dr. Dow. Okay, I'm going to leave this up to you. Would you rather take these last questions offline and we will email them, or would you like to answer these last 2 questions now?
Well, if it's not too lengthy, let's answer them. Let's do it.
Okay, so the first question is, do you have a way to postpone menopause? If a woman's just not ready for it, she...
Well, there are natural ways and there's unnatural ways, of course. But your body wants to stop period. And if it wants to stop period and you're not sick and it's not premature menopause and your body wants to stop period, you should let it stop period. There's a reasons for that. Your body has a timetable. And a lot of time we need to go with the flow. Now, there are times where you're stopping period prematurely and there may be some sickness or difficulty or problems and challenges, then we need to deal with that. So one is kind of like non-pathological, one is and a lot of time we need to go with the flow. Now, there are times where you're stopping period. Yes, Tiffany?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I was trying to...
It's okay. So I just finished my answer. So it really depends. So it depends on the individual.
Okay. Okay. I'm so sorry about that. I wanted to get clarification before we got to this next question, but I'm just going to ask it. And if this individual can let us know if we're on target for what you're saying, please. The other question is it a symptom to spinning when asleep? What I have to say is, does this individual mean spinning as in you're feeling dizziness spinning while you are trying to go to sleep or in the midst of your sleep? Or are you talking about some other form of spinning? If you can please answer us.
Yeah, if you have dizziness or vertigo when you go to sleep, that's not normal. And that should be looked at.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question because I personally just experienced that over this past month.
Yeah.
And it turned out it was a calcium deposit, we think, I have to see a specialist still, but on the lowest level, it could be a calcium deposit. On another level, it could be MS or Meniere's disease. So
and sometimes could be a positional hypotension, where that the either hypertension and hypotension can create a problem as well. Allergies can cause a problem. Sinus congestions, ear congestions can all cause a problem.
Mm-hmm. So I hope that answers it for this individual. I don't see a follow-up to that, so hopefully we responded to that. And then another individual, oh, I can answer this one. Another individual says, thank you, Dr. Dow. Is this archived for others to hear? And the answer is yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
We will have it immediately following the conclusion of this episode in a minute. You will be able to watch it in replay on Facebook in the video section. And at the end of the month, we will also post this on YouTube for you. And we all love you, Dr. Dow. So you get lots of thank yous from all of us.
Well, I'm honored and privileged to be able to discuss this topic. It's my passion. I enjoy helping people with these symptoms. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you to everyone who has attended tonight. We hope that you benefited from this conversation with us. It was so, so lovely to be able to share with you all. I really look forward to these chats each month. We will be coming back on the last Tuesday of March. I think that's the 26th with the Healing Hour. And we will be talking about sleep, how to perfect your routine for sleep. Also, next Thursday, we have Dr. Dow back with us for the telestudy topic, which they are going to be discussing pages from the I Ching. So it's a wonderful discussion, wisdom discussion, if you'd like to join in that. And we will be sending out email reminders for both of these topics. And then next month, we are back with Dr. Dow again for a fertility chat. So we're going from one side to the other side with everyone. So we hope again that you enjoyed this evening, and we will look forward to seeing you in the next weeks to come. Take care, everyone. Thank you again, Dr. Dow.
Bye-bye, Tiffany. Thank you very much.
Thank you.